a lot of the time that is what happens. And a particular time for me, anyway, that always sticks out in my mind is the first time that we ever got shot at. We were on this. It was over in Iraq. We were opened up on from this building that was probably a couple of 100 meters away, and it was in the old Pink Panther Land Rovers at the time, and I was driving. My mate was in the commander's seat, and one of the other lads was on the gun. So we were doing the normal extraction drill of getting out of the killing zone basically. So we were sort of like doing fire maneuver backwards where one vehicle was covering the other. And as we were going back, the rounds were actually hitting off the vehicle. So that we were actually opened up on and the rounds were like fucking like so close. And I remember just thinking at the time, is the next one gonna go through my fucking face? Right. But at the time, what was really weird is that, and it sounds so fucking crazy when you think about it. At the time, when we were under fire, like I started kind of laughing. Like I found humor in the moment because it was almost like an unconscious defense mechanism that kicked in that you kind of find it funny, which it's not funny, but I guess it's your body's natural way of dealing with something that is an immediate threat just to get you through the situation. As that fight or flight kicks in, um, and your nervous system finds a way to deal with it. And a lot of the time you don't have control over that. Thankfully, that's what happened to me, because it wasn't until afterwards that I thought back and was like, holy shit, any of us could have, or all of us could have been killed then. Yeah, it could have been that bad. If I was taken out, the vehicle stops, and then, others could have been killed. But at the time, I think you just find a way, your nervous system finds a way to get you through the immediate danger. And it's not until afterwards that you think back and go, yeah, that was pretty close. Could have
That
died.
that's a great story. You mentioned PTSD. I didn't have this on my list of questions, but I want to throw something out to you because I'm curious to get your opinion on it. I've had a handful of former SEAL Team 6 Delta guys who come on this show and they talk about PTSD, mental health, and they all have the same opinion. Now, granted, only 4 or 5 of them have talked about it. It's not a big sample size. We're talking 4 or 5 guys. And they say one of the reasons that they believe if the tier one unit in the US, obviously they can't speak for any other country, that they don't have the PTSD as high as you see in like rank and file units is because when they lose a teammate or a teammate gets badly injured, the psychiatrist doesn't tell them your life is ruined forever. This will haunt you. You're not going to be able to sleep. You need these drugs or whatever it might be. They get told this was a really shitty day. It's a really shitty situation. And tomorrow, when the sun comes up, we're going to find another target and we're going to remind everyone we're still running the show out here. They say that they think that's a more useful way to handle death, shootings, things of that nature, than a therapist who says, this will be with you for the rest of your life. How would you react to that argument?
I always think that the expression "be careful what you say to yourself because you're listening," and that goes for your own inner dialogue or someone else telling you something. Depending what your belief systems are, depending who you are, I guess, will depend on how you respond to what you're told. So some people will be very much um, vulnerable, or um, yeah, vulnerable in the sense that they would believe something like that. If someone says to them, this is going to be with you for the rest of your life, um, this is going to ruin your life, you're going to need this medication. Some people will take that and go, yeah, okay, maybe you're right. And some people will just go, no, I fucking won't, I'll prove you wrong. Um, Guys from the special forces environment, I would say most of them, I would say 99% of them would say, I'll prove you wrong. They're not going to believe someone who tells them something like that, but the odd person might. And it's also relevant to what you tell yourself. But regarding how someone would deal with that, like a soldier on the ground dealing with potential incidents that could cause potential PTSD in the long run, I guess that's not going to catch up with them for quite some time, a lot of the time. You often hear people who have PTSD, it's sometimes years afterwards. Usually not immediately. It's not until later on when there's time to, change your lifestyle or something else happens. You've not got that adrenaline rush to keep you going. When things are happening daily on operations, for example, you have a coping mechanism that just deals with it, and you soldier on. You get on with it. But that will be okay at the time because you're conditioned to do that. So soldiers are built in a way that they're conditioned to respond and react in a certain way. That's what their job is. And they'll keep doing that for potentially a long time. But the more that you do it and the more that you ignore something that is potentially, that's gone off inside, then that can take months, if not years, to sometimes come out. But you have a coping mechanism that deals with it at the time, and we'll keep dealing with that for as long as it's needed until the cracks start to appear. And that's usually what happens. And when the cracks start to appear in most people, it's when other behaviors start to change, like, they start to maybe reach for alcohol or drugs, or their behavior changes, their reactions change. They just change as people. And it's not until maybe one day there's a breakdown moment that ends up allowing this to come all out, and then they need serious help. But it's about how long do you pretend that you're okay until you reach that point where, the wheels come off, essentially. But when it comes to the question you asked me about, the original question was something like what would I say to someone who told me that, if they said that you need this medication versus, get on with it sort of thing. That what you said is essentially what I've just explained, which is we're here to do a job. You need to just keep going with it. And that's kind of the mentality of the military. There's a job that has to be done. You keep going until it's done. It's not until later that these things will come out, obviously.
I think that was incredibly well said. And that's actually a really good segue to kind of the next thing I want to talk about. What does it take for a guy to be in the position you were in, be at the tip of the spear, be in the 2-2 SAS? If they boot someone out, is it alcohol and drugs? Is it performance? Is it they changed as a person? Maybe they came back from war and it trauma changed them. What does it take where it's no questions asked? You do X, Y, and Z, you're leaving this place and you're never coming back?
Well, I mean, if someone gets thrown out,
Yeah.
you know what, I can't speak from experience. I don't know anyone that was thrown out or asked to leave for those reasons, personally. So I can't answer that question from a place of experience. I have witnessed people being, returned to unit for not being capable enough, or making mistakes that were not in line with the values of the regiment.